Hello everyone, I wanted to make another tutorial going over the panoramic painting process in Photoshop. And the beginning is all going to be pretty much the same, and I just want to go over everything though, and kind of go across some of the issues I've had and others have had, and some of the solutions I've come up with. And kind of, there's a lot of little things that can go wrong with this process, and it's very confusing how to fix them. So first off, we're going to grab that grid that Jama's created, and I'll include a link in the description below, and a link to his original tutorial as well. So once I've copied that or downloaded it, I'm just going to do a new canvas. So I got new, and it's going to pop up here. And the grid size is 4000 by 2000. You could change the size of the original image to suit what your needs are. I'd recommend using that size and then maybe upgrading from there. So I open that size, paste the image in, and then maybe I'd upscale from there if you wanted to. Okay, so this is basically what the texture will be, and it'll be wrapped onto a sphere. So first off, we need to wrap that onto a sphere. So make sure that layer that you paste into here is selected. And we go up to 3D, new mesh from layer, mesh presets, and down to spherical panoramic. Okay, it'll just take a second to do that. And now once that's happened, this has actually wrapped that grid onto a 3D sphere. So we're actually inside of a big sphere, just looking around it, and we're in the very center. So a few of the issues that can happen is while you're navigating, you might get off center a little bit, you might get a little bit kiltered to the side, a little twisted, and your camera navigation is going to get all weird. So one thing to always keep in mind while you are navigating within the sphere in this 3D space is you want to make sure you see these yellow lines or just yellow surrounding area around your canvas. That can disappear pretty fast, pretty easily. If I hit V, you're gonna start cycling through some different view modes and you're not seeing the texture. This is still in 3D space though. But say I hit B for brush, we don't see that anymore. These yellow lines are gone, but you might be able to get away and navigate somehow without those yellow bars. I'm gonna try showing some ways that you might accidentally do that. One way is you click on spherical panorama here, or maybe you cycle through somehow. And this window over here is the 3D window, and I've popped that up. It pops up automatically, but I've also, if you don't have it open, you can just click on here under window. And another window you want to have open is the properties tab, which is this one right below it. So now, even though those yellow lines are gone, I can still look around, but notice how it's starting to kind of look around really strangely. And one thing you'll notice as I look around, over here, those coordinates are all kind of messed up. But how do we get our yellow lines back? Well, we just go over here and click on current view. So now the issue is the current view is looking around one way, and see how it's still being weird? So basically what we've done is turn the sphere when we're in the panoramic. So you could try being like, oh, I'll fix that by going to my current view and clicking here on properties and resetting my coordinates. But wait, that doesn't get us back to the center. There's something wrong. So how do we fix that? So to fix that, you go to your spherical panorama and you check, did I change any numbers or anything? Is anything wrong there? So I click on that and then go down to properties. And here's our coordinates tab. And click that. And you'll notice we've moved X, Y, and Z. Let's reset that. Okay, reset it, but it doesn't look correct here. That's because our current view was still moved a little bit. If we go back to current view, now it works just fine. It's scrolling around really nicely, really easy to navigate. We can look up and down, and it works really nicely. And on terms of navigation, you can actually kind of twist and stuff like that, but I wouldn't recommend doing this too much. I actually kind of tend to keep that back to just defaults. And notice I hit reset, but now it's kind of messed up again. Like where'd my visuals go? Where'd my texture go? Oh no, I lost it. So to get that back, let's see, we're gonna go to view camera 1, and I'll scroll us back to that position. And just to make sure, we're gonna go to coordinates. So they're coordinates we moved, and we're gonna go back to spherical panorama. That's all set to 0, so we're good. Click back on current view. I know this is a little frustrating, but just get used to kind of moving around and making sure your situation's all set up correctly. And if you do mess it up, there's always a way to get back to it. And I can show you some other ways to get back to this. if you're like all hope is lost and you want to save your file and stuff. So I'll show you that as well. But notice how we can scroll around, and I was actually clicking through these. Remember, I suggested not to really use these. I would stick with the first one. If you do get into more advanced use of this and you actually want to use these, you can click on to click through them, or you can hit Shift V, V as in Victor, to kind of scroll through them. But I recommend just sticking with that first one because this is just going to orbit. That's perfect. Another thing that some people accidentally hit is they'll hit just plain V as in Victor on the keyboard, and sometimes that can cycle through different stuff. Like right now it's not having a problem, but I've actually noticed I've accidentally cycled off my camera, so I want to go back. Remember those yellow lines? They're not there, so make sure you don't move around, but if you do, it's okay. You probably did it on here, and just make sure your coordinates are set. I'm just going over and over again because that is a huge thing that messed me up so much early on in this process. So go back to current view. And now we're back to here. Okay, so now I want to go into now that we have most navigational things set up, I want to go into just a little bit of the camera setup too, and just kind of the view. I end up uploading these on the Artstation, and if you're at this field of view, which is not quite what Artstation shows up as, you'll want to change that a little bit. So we're going to go to current view, and we're going to click on the camera tab here, or 3D camera, and you'll notice the FOV. So that's the field of view, and you'll notice as you scroll it higher and lower, you'll get closer and further. I would recommend setting this around 15 to 17. And I think that's somewhere around what Artstation by default kind of shows up as. And if you're drawing a lot of stuff, sometimes you want to go to like 1 so you can see all the grid really easily. I feel it's a little more natural about 16. Kind of things don't warp too much, but you can get a good view of everything. So first off, we're going to set that to about 16 or so, personal preference. And once that's set, now we want to start drawing on this grid, or painting, or however you want to do it. And that's where the processes get a little bit weird again. So we can just hit B for brush or whatever you're going to use and just start drawing on this. You'll notice it's kind of laggy when you first start drawing, so it's a little bit kind of We're going to undo that. And I'm doing Control-Alt-Z to do multiple undos. And this is another setting you can go in here. You can go to 3D, and we're going to go to Paint System, and it's set to Texture. So did you notice how when I was brushing, like using my brush here, my brush is, not that big, but then when I draw, it's huge? That's because you have to remember this is wrapped onto a 3D sphere. And since the setting over here under 3D is Paint System of Texture, it's just painting the size of the brush onto the texture, so they don't correlate. So we want to go to Projection first off. And now that looks a lot better. It's a little slow. This is dependent on your system. It is drawing. It's working pretty well. I could try a different brush here. I'm going to go to my brush presets. I'm just going to do a basic circle brush. That works pretty good. So this is drawing right on there, and I can, oops. We've already got something messing up. What's going on here? For some reason it's only turning in a circle. Let's see what we did. So under current view, let's make sure we've got some settings here. Let's go to spherical. That's correct. I'm gonna reset that really quick. I see we're on the zoom. We don't want that. I'm gonna undo that. There we go. Okay, so I think what was wrong, I think I was like upside down or something, like I was looking the wrong way, backwards. But once again, my first thing was to check was the spherical panoramic tab over under 3D and then the current view. So I've got that. And if I go and start erasing that, you can go and erase it, but wait, it's erasing your grid. You want to keep your grid though, right? So let's undo that. And this is actually gonna, when you undo stuff in here, it undoes all your movements. So I'm just gonna undo until we don't have those lines. The undo counts everything. Hit V, make sure we're back into the view here. Now what we want to do is add a layer to this. If we add a layer though, just like a normal layer, the lines are gone. If I try navigating it, just, this is just over top of this image. That's not 3D at all. So how do you take care of that? We're going to delete that layer. The way you handle that is we want to click on this. We're going to double click it, and it'll pop up this window if this window isn't open for you already. And now we're going to go down to spherical panoramic, but instead of just going onto the panoramic or panorama, we want to click on the panorama material. And within properties, that's going to bring up this tab of diffuse, specular, illumination, ambient. Ignore all of them except diffuse in this case. And this is basically the texture that's being wrapped around that sphere. So we're going to click on this little tab here and go edit texture. And this is going to open up the actual file that all this information is spewing into. And you'll notice up here it's a PSB. So it's saving this file within this other file. So this PSB file is saved within this document. So if I go and click and save this file, and I'm just going to say Pano and say OK. And it saves that. And it's also saving this file within it. So back to what we wanted to do originally. You look in here. So everything you paint in this scene on this layer is going to correlate to this scene to whatever layer you have selected. There's only one layer in here, and the only thing I have selected is that one layer. So let's put a new layer on there. Just hit new. And remember, we're in the PSB part of this thing. This is the texture. This is not the 3D part. And you can work in this layer. So say I put a new layer in there and I draw a circle. And it's a little bit slow because it's actually correlating back to that 3D part. And we're going to click back to here. And we're going to click V and make sure we have those yellow lines. And to get that to come up, sometimes if it doesn't, just click on the outside edge here. And we're going to scroll around and look around. And there's that circle. It showed up. So now if I erase this circle, look at it. It erases just the circle because it's on its own layer. So and if I draw, it shows up, it's on its own layer. And then if I click back over here, sometimes you'll see a little process running down here and it's converting this back into this 2D layer. So there it is again. And we could go in here and select all this and just like cut it and remove it and go back over to here. And there, see, it took a second to translate that back and forth. So that's how we get another layer on here. But see that little bit of a delay you get? There is a way around that. So you can make a new layer in the 3D view, but not use it as a 3D view layer. Watch, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make a new layer and I'm gonna draw something, and let's draw it in red just to kind of illustrate what we're doing here. And I'm just gonna draw a cube or something. Let's pretend it actually is in this space or drawn right through it. Oops. There. So I'm gonna use the front of it. If I go to this view now, there's nothing there. I go back here, this is still a 2D layer. Let's keep it on that grid. Now what you can do is you can merge this down with Control E, and it's gonna merge into that 3D layer. And now, let's click on the edge here. We can look around, it's in that layer. And now if we jump over to here, it might take a second. Or sometimes it won't happen. Like if you have this is another issue that you can run into. Let's go back over here and look at it. Okay, we got that around. Look over here. It's not updating. Why isn't it updating? So to get around this, if you have your file, it's not updating here, and all your information's over here, let's close this texture file and just say no. And now let's go in here, make sure and click on spherical and then the material, and then go edit diffuse again, edit texture. There it is. And it's on that layer that we made. And we can make them as many layers as we want in here. And you can you could be like, okay, I want to, edit this with another layer behind it. I'm just gonna fill like a few of these cube walls with blue. And then go back to here. Takes a second, uploads. So that's a way to kind of fix it if you have an instance where it's just not updating for you. Okay, now hit V again, make sure and click on the edge, get those yellow lines show up, and then I can look around again. So that's another way to kind of fix any errors you come across or any kind of situations where your files aren't syncing properly. That can happen. The desync, what happens basically is like you click back and forth a little too fast sometimes, and then it kind of loses that sync. Remember I was saying they were saving between each other? It sort of loses that. So there's two ways that you can, if you have everything's kind of messed up and you want to fix it. One way, you save this file, open back up and whatnot. That's kind of the standard way. I have this file saved. Another way is if this file has all the information still and our 3D view and camera's all messed up, we can just save this file. So you can do just Control S will save that automatically, but where did it save to? We don't know unless we hold here and you can see the layer shows up there. But let's do this differently. Let's hit Control Shift S and I'm on the other screen here and I'm just going to save it as a PSD. So we look here, PSD, and we're just going to call this the rescue layer, if I can spell. There we go. And remember, this file has all the information for the texture. It's got the grid, it's got that block of color here, and this. So how do we get this back to this view in case our view is all messed up or something? There, so like my view is messed up. So the way to do that is we're going to close this all out. Make sure you know the size of this document, so we can just do Control Alt I. And remember, it's 4000 by 2000. Maybe yours is different. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a document that same size. So hit New Document. There we go. And making it the same size as whatever file we've been painting and working on. Create. And I'm just going to paste anything in here. In this case, it's the grid. It doesn't matter. It could just be a new blank layer with scribbled on it. This part doesn't matter as long as you have a layer selected over here. And we're going to do that first step again. Go to 3D, new mesh from layer, mesh presets, spherical panoramic. Okay, so now we have those lines, but that's not what we want. We want our painting that we were working on, right? We want to make sure we can save that process and everything. So what we do is we go to spherical panorama here, go to the material, and click on here. And instead of saying edit texture, go to replace texture. And now let's look through here and we've got that. Remember, we named it the rescue layer, and just hit OK. Now it's going to load that up. Make sure you click on the edge and there's our old file. So that's kind of how you can get back to square one. And remember, if you say your camera's all messed up and stuff, you want to save it. We're going to go over that one more time really quick. Click on spherical panorama material, edit texture, and it brings up this document. And remember, you want to go save as right here, because right now it's going to save it within like another layer, another document, basically like in your temp document, I think. So save as and then switch it. It can be a PSB or a PSD. That doesn't matter as long as it's like layered files. This is basically just your texture file. So we can close that out again. And here we go. We're back in here. So the way I tend to work with this, and that's kind of the last step I want to go over, is we're going to go in here and edit these textures again. I'm just going to get rid of these two layers, make a new layer, and then go back to here. So it's updated now. And since we made that new document, we're going to go and change the FOV again. Remember, that's just under current view, properties, and then like 16 or so. So the way I tend to generally work when working in this mode is I'll start kind of giving a rough for the land. So just to make sure, we're going to go back over to our rescue layer, and we got this, it's on its own layer. And just to make sure it's working, we're going to do a little scribble here. Go here, and you see it took a little second, load it up. We're going to go 3D view. There it is. So I'm going to erase that. Now I'm going to look around, kind of figure out where I want to plan out my area, and just get like a regular black brush or something. And then I can start drawing my land out. But see how it's a little bit laggy? I always use the new layer on top of it and kind of scroll this out and draw it. So I could have steps or something going up right here, kind of following these grids. Just like this. Pretty much whatever you want to do. And then remember, you can Control E to merge this down. And then I'll kind of just look around and kind of explore the space. Like, where does this go off onto? I'll make a new layer again. Maybe this little path kind of scrolls down over here. Get some grass on the edges. And merge down again. Hit V, make sure those yellow bars are there, and kind of look around. So I kind of do a process of kind of just scaling, looking around, and drawing stuff. And we'll go here. And I'm kind of thinking about composition within this 3D space too. Maybe we have like a large pillar that fell over here or something. I love my large pillars. And I kind of just draw that in space. But yeah, what I'm drawing is not too important. I just want to show the process. So once you have a drawing like this, then you could go into your rescue layer here, and look, it desynced for some reason. So we're just going to close that, and I'm going to go over here again, material, edit texture. But basically what I would do is I would be like, this is my lines, and I'll make a new layer underneath that, and this would be my color layer, and go back over here. And now if I get my brush out and start doing like some coloring behind here, it should show up behind the lines. And once again, you can also do that new layer thing. Let me just block this all out really quick with the lasso tool. Fill bucket, but look, it went all over it. That's weird. But once I hit merge, merges it right behind it. Hit V, and now I can look around. And then from there, I might do another layer on top and kind of paint it over. So that's kind of my general process for this. And on top of that, I could show when you save these to get them to wherever you want them to go, like if you want Artstation stuff, you would just go into Panoramic once you have your final painting, edit texture, it pops up this layer, and this is the layer you'd want to save. And you could save that as JPEG or whatever and upload that to Artstation and whatnot. So that's pretty simple there. But yeah, so that's kind of the general working process I use, and a lot of the issues I ran into doing these panoramic tutorial or panoramic paintings. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully it's been really helpful, and hopefully I've answered most of those questions that were bubbling up about the previous tutorial. Thanks again for checking out this video, and subscribe and like or dislike. If you dislike it, let me know why you dislike it. Like a thumbs down doesn't really tell me much, but if you can give me a comment of why you'd want to see this improved, I'd love to see that. Or just let me know what you liked about it. Thanks again, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Take care.